My entitled stepmom tried to steal my dad's inheritance, so I took everything from her legally. Hi. Buckle up because this is a long one. I've been holding this in for years, but now that everything is finally over, I can safely share the story of how my stepmother tried to destroy me and ended up ruining her own life instead. This all started when I was 12. My mom passed away from breast cancer after fighting for 2 years. It shattered my dad and me. We were close, like really close. He was my best friend. For almost a year after Mom died, it was just the two of us. We had our routines, Friday movie nights, weekend fishing trips, and this unspoken bond built on shared grief. But then Karen showed up. Yes, her real name was Karen. My dad met her through some mutual friends, and within 6 months, she had charmed her way into our lives. She was polished, always smiling with this Stepford wife energy. At first, I tried to like her. She acted super sweet when Dad was around, brought me little gifts, complimented my clothes, even though I could tell she hated my tomboy style, and pretended to care about my hobbies. But when it was just the two of us, the mask dropped. She started with subtle digs. Don't you think your mom would want you to be more ladylike? Or your dad needs someone who can really take care of him now, not a sad little girl dragging him down. It didn't take long before she started making all the decisions in the house. My room got a makeover. Goodbye posters and beanbag chair, hello ruffled curtains and floral bedding I hated. She cooked what she liked, took over the shopping, and slowly pushed out every tradition my dad and I had. Then she brought Brittany into the picture. Brittany was her daughter from a previous marriage. She was a year older than me and a nightmare. Spoiled, dramatic, and mean in that quiet, manipulative way that made it hard to prove she was doing anything wrong. She once told my teacher I called her a slur just to get me in trouble. I got detention for a week. My dad. I love him, but he was blind. Maybe he was desperate for love or just grateful someone wanted to build a life with him again, but he didn't see how Karen was slowly isolating me. Anytime I tried to talk to him about it, he said I needed to give her a chance or try harder to get along. So I stopped trying. But I never stopped watching. By the time I was 17, things were bad. Karen had fully embedded herself into our lives. She quit her job and became a full-time homemaker, which in her case meant spending my dad's money and bossing the cleaning lady around. Brittany was now the golden child. She got a new car for her birthday. I got a secondhand bike. She threw parties at the house. I had to ask permission to invite one friend over. Then my dad got sick. It started with fatigue, then stomach problems. At first, we all thought it was stress. He'd been working long hours and managing some family business stuff after my grandfather passed away. But then he started missing work, forgetting things, losing weight. I begged him to go to the doctor, and he finally did. But somehow Karen always came with him. I never got a straight answer from either of them about what the doctor said. One night, I walked into the kitchen to grab water and saw Karen at the sink, pouring pills down the drain. She didn't see me, but I stood there, frozen. I knew something was very, very wrong. I didn't say anything that night. Instead, I started collecting everything I could. Copies of prescriptions, bank statements, which she left lying around, and even started writing a journal of weird things I noticed. I didn't know exactly what she was doing, but I was determined to find out. My dad passed away 3 months later. The official cause was cardiac arrest, complicated by untreated high blood pressure and malnutrition. I was devastated. Karen acted heartbroken, sobbing dramatically at the funeral, throwing herself over his casket. But not even 2 days later, she sat me down and said, "Now that your father's gone, we need to talk about what's next. You'll stay here, of course, but under my rules, and you'll contribute. No more free ride." I blinked. Free ride? She smiled like I was a child. "Your dad took care of everything, but that's over now. I'm in charge." That's when I told her we should probably wait to hear the reading of the will before making any decisions. She paled a little, but quickly recovered. "Of course, sweetie. I'm sure your father left us both what we deserve." Oh, he did, just not the way she thought. My dad was smarter than she realized. A week later, the lawyer read the will in his office with all of us present. Me, Karen, Brittany, and a family friend as witness. According to the will, everything, and I mean everything, was left to me. The house, his life insurance policy, the business shares, and all the investment accounts were placed into a trust in my name. Karen was granted a stipend from the trust, enough for reasonable living expenses, and was allowed to live in the house until I turned 25 or until she remarried. Brittany was mentioned exactly once. She got a framed photo of the four of us from a vacation we took 2 years ago. I've never seen someone's face drain of color so fast. Karen was furious but tried to play it off in front of the lawyer. He must have changed something without telling me. That can't be right. The lawyer, a longtime friend of my dad's, gave her the tightest smile and said, "It's all signed, witnessed, and notarized. There's no mistake." That night, Karen went nuclear. She screamed, cried, threatened to kick me out, called me every name in the book. I locked myself in my room and recorded the whole thing. The next day, she tried to cut off the internet and took my phone. So I went to school early and used the counselor's office to call my lawyer. Yes, my lawyer now. My dad set one up for me through the trust. He arranged for an emergency hearing, and the judge ruled that since I was the sole beneficiary and Karen was interfering with the trust's execution, she had to back off immediately. But that wasn't enough. I wasn't done yet. I remembered those pills, the sink, the forged signatures on checks I found. Something inside me told me she didn't just benefit from my dad's death. She helped it happen. So I went back through everything. I got my dad's medical records. I had an autopsy requested. Since it was less than 30 days since he passed, I had the right to do so as next of kin. I turned over the records to a forensic specialist. Turns out his medication levels were inconsistent and showed signs of tampering. Pills he was supposed to be taking never showed up in his blood work. That alone wasn't enough to charge her with murder, but it was enough to launch a criminal investigation into medical neglect and prescription fraud. At the same time, my lawyer filed paperwork to challenge her stipend, citing financial abuse. I had evidence she was using trust money for luxury expenses way outside the scope of reasonable living. Spa days, designer bags, a freaking vacation to Cabo. We froze her access to the trust. She tried to sue, claimed emotional distress, wrongful eviction, even though she still lived in the house, and said I was poisoning the memory of her husband. But in court, with my lawyer calmly presenting documentation after documentation, forged checks, tampered meds, even a secret bank account she'd opened in Brittany's name, the judge shut her down. Her lawsuit was dismissed. The trust was restructured. Her stipend was slashed to a minimal amount, just enough for basic rent and food. But here's the best part. Remember the clause in the will that said she could stay in the house until I turned 25 or remarried? Well, a few months after losing the court battle, Karen got married. Quietly, to some guy she met online. Probably thought no one would notice. I did. I showed up at her new husband's Facebook page and screen capped the wedding photos. Then I handed them to my lawyer. Eviction notice issued. She had 30 days to vacate. The day she moved out was the first time I smiled in years. Brittany screamed at me in the driveway, calling me a jealous little snake and telling me I'd regret crossing them. Karen didn't say a word. She just glared at me like she wanted to set me on fire. They drove off in a battered car with trash bags of clothes in the trunk. Everything else, the furniture, appliances, even the chandelier Karen had bragged about, belonged to the estate. They left with nothing. I renovated the house, got rid of every trace of them, painted the walls, replaced the furniture, and restored the photos of my parents that Karen had hidden away. Now I'm 25. The trust is fully mine. I've turned the house into a warm, quiet place filled with books, music, and peace. Karen? Last I heard, she and Brittany live in a rundown rental outside of town. She tried to start a YouTube channel selling pyramid scheme skincare and rants about how ungrateful stepchildren are destroying families. Let her talk. Because I didn't scream. I didn't fight dirty. I didn't have to lift a finger in anger. I just watched her unravel. My stepmom slowly poisoned my dad, tried to steal his money, and take over my life. I exposed her financial crimes, got her evicted, and took back everything she tried to claim. Now she's broke, bitter, and out of my life. Permanently.